and it pretty much leveled off, and people said, well, it cost me more than the benefit. And that's why we've kind of gone to that next level of let's really try and figure out, we're not just throwing this out there and empirically saying it's working, but let's figure out what's working so we can say how you use this. Do you need to inoculate it with something else to make it really work? Okay. Another interesting one in terms of redesign. So John Asherman, I think some of you probably know him or have heard of him, has been growing corn in his Colfax farm. Dry land, no-till. Pretty amazing. 7 years continuous corn. And probably the most interesting thing that happened is, if any of you know who Jim Cook is, former dean of our college, a pathologist, John went to Jim and said, Jim, how long do I have to grow corn before I clean up all the disease issues that will affect wheat? And Jim said, well, maybe 5 years. And John was already 7 years into this, so he said, okay, I'm not going to grow corn again. I'm going to come in and direct seed winter wheat into the corn soil. 170 bushel no-till winter wheat following corn. Pretty substantial improvement over his averages. The reason? Cleaned up all his disease issues by bringing in a crop that really didn't have any history in the region, so there was no disease affecting it. And over time, growing the corn basically allowed him to clean up the diseases that would affect wheat. Pretty cool stuff. That's John right there. The other one, I talked earlier about switchgrass production, and this is some pictures of switchgrass. We can blow away Midwest yields growing this crop. Of course, we put a lot of nutrient on to begin. But one of the cool things about it is what happens underground. So what this picture is, and this is from the Land Institute, basically this is an annual wheatgrass at different times of the year, and this is a perennial cousin. The root mass, not only does that represent a lot of carbon, and we've actually done this study of trying to figure out how much carbon does the switchgrass put in the soil, but think about your water use efficiency and your nutrient use efficiency by bringing something like that into the system. Switchgrass is one. There's lots of perennial grasses that will do this if we start to think about, can we bring some perennials into our system in terms of a redesign. Some of you have probably heard Steve Jones at WSU, former wheat breeder, was working on perennial wheat. Well, it goes at this issue. The issue is it's not very perennial yet and it doesn't yield very well. The idea is there that you have a crop that actually does a better job of meeting the ecological niches that you've got in the system. A couple more minutes here. So we also have done a lot of work on dairies, a lot of our nutrient extraction work, but a lot of the work has been on energy recovery in the waste management. And so this idea is, currently we lagoon waste on our CAFOs, and the idea is why throw that stuff away when it's just a lot of energy ready to be recovered. And so we've kind of redesigned the thinking here that no longer should you think about a dairy as a milk producing facility. You should think about a dairy as a milk, energy, and nutrient producing facility. It's a fertilizer plant. And this is a technology that exists. We can do this. This is Vanderhoek digester. The rooters in Sunnyside are doing this. There's quite another ribbon cutting ceremony on another facility. We can do this. Fairly clean burning alternative fuel. It's essentially natural gas, kind of a low grade natural gas. We can clean it up a bit and make, we can make, that's what they're doing. They're making electricity right now. But we have a better idea. That just shows some of what that technology does in terms of cleaning up the waste. But our better idea with Western Washington University's Vehicle Research Institute to take that gas that we've made from dairy manure and refine it to run a race car. This is pretty cool. They actually went to New York with that car using gas from Vanderhoek, and I think they placed second in that race. But we just got funding for a project where we're building a refinery at the Vanderhoek facility. It's actually under construction, and we're buying a whole bunch of motor coaches for a private carrier who runs from Bellingham down to SeaTac that they're going to run on compressed biomethane from the dairy. So this is pretty cool. The other thing I'm showing here, we just had a couple of these built, is essentially a household scale anaerobic digester. So think about how much garbage and food waste and things like that you throw away in your kitchen. Well, why do you throw it away? We can make energy from that. We can recover nutrients. They do this all over Asia. The technologies in Asia aren't the best, they're not the most efficient, but we worked on essentially a new design for this where, in theory, you could have an appliance that you have in your kitchen that you stick your material in, and maybe you run it to your hot water and natural gas. So we're hoping to sell that one at Home Depot in a couple of years. If we do, I'll get rich on that. And then the final consideration, and I'll be done. This is Paul Roberts, who's author of the book The End of Oil. He also recently wrote the book The End of Food, which I think is much better than Michael Pollan's book. But Paul, you know, as he goes through this book, The End of Oil, he comes to this point where he just has a moment of lucidity and says, we may also have to confront the possibility that our innate energy optimism is itself obsolete, and that in a future energy economy bounded by risk to supply, crushing energy privation, and carbon stealing, it will simply not be possible to continue producing energy in ever-increasing volumes. If that is the case, if there truly are limits to the size of our energy economy, then we will need to radically rethink not only the way we produce energy, but the way we use it. And I think we're just coming into this time where we really have to start thinking about efficiency, substitution, and redesign if we're going to be thinking about 20 to 30 to 40 years down the road and having viable and sustainable agricultural systems. I think I got a picture of Paul's two books, which I would highly recommend, even shameless plug for them. So, all right, well, thank you.